A pyramid stands alone in the desert, and another rises from a distant jungle. They share the same iconic shape, yet their builders never met. This is one of history's greatest enigmas, the uncanny architectural pattern shared by distant civilizations with no known contact. By the end of this journey, you will understand why cultures across the globe, separated by oceans and millennia, all reached for the sky with the same monumental form. We will explore how a sacred mountain could be dreamed up in isolation, and whether the answer lies in the stars or deep within the human mind. What does it say about us that the same shape could be a tomb, a temple, and a cosmic clock? The blueprint for this structure seems written into the earth itself. Across continents and centuries, the pyramid emerges not as a borrowed style, but as an independent invention. In Egypt, it is a smooth-sided mountain of stone, a perfect geometric ascent. In Mesopotamia, it is the ziggurat, a terraced tower reaching for the heavens. In the jungles of Mesoamerica, it is a steep-stepped platform crowned with temples, and in Cambodia, the temple mountains of Angkor mirror this profound upward thrust. The pattern is not in the precise angles or construction techniques, which vary wildly. It is in the fundamental idea, a monumental, ascending form that dominates the landscape and points inexorably toward the sky. What we are seeing is the same profound thought occurring to human minds separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. The first great pyramids of Egypt rose around 2,600 years before the Common Era. The grandest Maya pyramids were built more than 3 with a sudden flash of inspiration, but with a slow, deliberate architectural progression. The earliest royal tombs were simple, flat-roofed structures called mastabas. Then, under the visionary architect Imhotep for Pharaoh Djoser, a revolutionary idea took shape, stacking 6 mastabas of decreasing size atop one another. This created the step pyramid at Saqqara, a monumental staircase pointing toward the heavens. Within a century, this concept was refined and transformed. The steps were filled in, creating those iconic, smooth, triangular faces that seem to capture and hold the very light of the sun. The pyramid had found its purest geometric expression on the Giza Plateau. The scale of this ambition is almost beyond comprehension. The Great Pyramid of Khufu originally stood at 481 feet tall, constructed from an estimated 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. The precision is what truly astonishes. Its base is leveled to within less than an inch, and its 4 sides are aligned almost perfectly to the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. This was not random, it was a deliberate mirroring of cosmic order on Earth. Inside, a labyrinth of passages and grand galleries leads to the king's chamber, a room built not for the living, but designed as a sacred machine. For the Egyptians, the pyramid was far more than a tomb. It was a resurrection device, a permanent launch pad for the soul. The pharaoh, seen as a descendant of the sun god Ra, would upon his passing need to rejoin his father in the sky. The smooth, gleaming sides of the pyramid, often covered in polished white limestone, were believed to represent the solidified rays of the sun. They were a ramp, a literal pathway. The entire structure served as a kind of spiritual technology, concentrating celestial energy to propel the king's essence upward. Here, the upward aspiration shared with the ziggurat takes on a profoundly different, yet parallel meaning. In Mesopotamia, priests climbed a man-made mountain to meet the gods. In Egypt, the king's soul used a man-made sunbeam to ascend and become one. Both cultures, looking at the same empty sky, built the same profound answer from stone, one a staircase, the other a solidified ray of light. This convergence raises a deeper puzzle. If two such different visions could produce the same form, what other forces, beyond simple imitation, might be at work? Yet the blueprint crossed an ocean. In the dense jungles of the Yucatan, the Maya built their own mountains of stone, and the purpose was transformed once more. The pyramid at Chichén Itzá, known as El Castillo or the Temple of Kukulkan, is a masterpiece of this tradition. It is not a silent tomb, but a vibrant, living instrument. Its 4 stairways, each with 91 steps, combine with a shared platform at the top to total 365, a direct representation of the solar year. This is architecture as a cosmic calendar carved in limestone. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a shadow along the northern staircase, creating the illusion of a serpent slithering down from the temple to the earth. This was no accident, it was a calculated spectacle, a moment when the boundary between the human world and the realm of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan seemed to dissolve. For the Maya, the Aztecs, and their neighbors, the pyramid was a sacred mountain, a concept they called wits. It was the heart of the community, a stage for public ceremony where rulers demonstrated their connection to the gods and the cycles of time. Its platforms represented the layered cosmos, from the underworld below to the heavens above. Here, the pyramid served a dual role. It was a spiritual axis and a political statement, uniting the people under a shared celestial order. This is a profound parallel to the earlier Ziggurats, yet conceived an entire world away. Both were temples for the living, both were climbed by priests, and both served as focal points where society, the divine, and the cosmos met. They arrived at the stepped form not to house the dead, but to energize the living, to create a point of contact so powerful it needed to be the highest thing in the landscape. How could the same architectural answer arise for such a similar human question, when the questioners were separated by vast, impassable waters? The connection seems to run deeper than stone, pointing toward something fundamental in how we perceive our place in the universe. The journey of this shape now turns eastward, where it transforms once more, becoming a map not of the sky, but of the mind itself. In the lush landscapes of Asia, the pyramidal form found a new spiritual home, most powerfully within the Buddhist stupa. Take the colossal monument of Borobudur on the island of Java. From a distance, it appears as a vast stepped pyramid, a mountain of dark volcanic stone. But to walk its paths is to undertake a pilgrimage. Borobudur is not a temple with inner chambers. It is a 3-dimensional mandala, a sacred diagram built entirely to be walked. Pilgrims ascend through 3 symbolic realms, moving from the world of desire at the base, through the world of forms, and finally to the formless world of enlightenment at the summit. Each of its 9 stacked terraces is lined with over 2,500 narrative relief panels and 500 Buddha statues, creating a silent sermon in stone. The very act of climbing its concentric circles is the journey, a physical meditation that mirrors the path to awakening. Here, the pyramid is no longer a bridge to distant gods or a vessel for a king. It is a profound architectural metaphor for an internal ascent. The same foundational shape, the receding platform, becomes a guide for a philosophical journey, one that moves inward toward understanding rather than outward toward the stars. This concept of the sacred mountain as cosmic axis also took magnificent form in Cambodia. At the Temple of Bakong, built in the 9th century, we see a pyramid designed as an exact representation of Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. Its 5 tiers symbolize the 5 levels of the world, with the central sanctuary at the peak representing the dwelling of the gods. This was architecture as cosmology in its purest sense, a permanent, earthly model of an entire philosophical universe. The pyramid's form was the perfect vehicle for this idea, its stability and upward focus making the abstract concept of a world axis tangibly real. So from Java to Cambodia, the shape served as a spiritual cartography. It did not point to a destination in the heavens, but charted the terrain of consciousness itself, proving that the same architectural pattern could hold entirely different worlds of meaning. This incredible adaptability raises a compelling possibility. Perhaps the pyramid endures because it is a blank slate, a fundamental form upon which any civilization can project its deepest beliefs about order, the cosmos, and our place within it. Perhaps the most grounding answer lies not in the stars, but in the stubborn reality of stone and soil. Before humanity mastered the arch, the vault, or steel reinforcement, there was one supremely reliable way to build something tall and make it last: the pyramid. Its form is a direct conversation with gravity. Those sloping sides act as a continuous funnel, channeling the immense weight of the structure straight down into the earth. There are no unsupported overhangs, no wide spans asking materials to do what they cannot. Every block, every brick is essentially in compression, pushed firmly downward by the mass above it, a principle that stone handles with ancient patience. This is why cultures from the deserts of Egypt to the floodplains of Mesopotamia, all working with heavy, compressive materials like limestone, granite, or sun-dried mud brick, independently arrived at this shape when they sought to create something monumental. It was the logical endpoint of their technological reality. Think of it as a kind of architectural convergent evolution. In nature, dolphins and sharks developed similar streamlined bodies, not because one copied the other, but because that shape is the optimal solution for moving swiftly through water. Similarly, the pyramid emerged in isolation because it was the optimal solution for a universal human desire: to build something awe-inspiring that would defy time itself, using only the tools and materials at hand. The Sumerian builder stacking mud brick, the Egyptian engineer quarrying limestone, and the Maya mason cutting volcanic tuff all faced the same immutable opponents: gravity and decay. And against those forces, the pyramid was simply the most intelligent, most stable fortress they could conceive. This practical lens begins to demystify the global coincidence, anchoring it in a shared, earthly logic of problem-solving. It suggests that monumental architecture, in its infancy, follows a kind of grammar dictated by physics. Yet, if the form was merely an engineering inevitability, why did it always carry such profound sacred meaning? Why was the most stable shape also, invariably, the shape chosen to reach for the divine? The answer may be that the practical and the spiritual were never separate, but two sides of the same foundational stone. The stability of stone may explain the shape, but it cannot account for the soul within it. To understand why the pyramid became a global symbol, we must look past the engineering and into the realm of myth. From the snow-capped peak of Olympus to the sacred summit of Sinai, from the cosmic pillar of Mount Meru to the Maya's living mountain Huitzhab, a powerful idea echoes across human cultures. The sacred mountain is not just a geological feature, it is an archetype, a primordial symbol etched into our collective imagination. It is the axis mundi, the world axis, the immovable point where creation began, where the gods reside, and where the dome of heaven touches the solid earth. This is not a coincidence of geography, but a shared dream of order. For ancient civilizations, the world was a place of uncertainty, bounded by chaos. To build a pyramid was to create a permanent anchor against that chaos. It was to take that universal symbol of the sacred mountain and make it tangible, permanent, and utterly under human control. When a Sumerian priest ascended the ziggurat, he was climbing a man-made Sinai. When an Egyptian pharaoh was laid to rest within the geometric heart of his pyramid, he was being placed at the still center of the universe, a point of perfect order from which his soul could ascend. The Maya, watching the shadow serpent descend El Castillo, were witnessing the axis mundi come to life, proving their temple was the very hinge upon which the seasons turned. This transforms the pyramid from a mere building into a physical prayer. Its form is a desperate, glorious attempt to tether the fleeting human realm to the perceived eternity of the cosmos. Every stone laid was a statement of belief that the universe had a structure, a center, and that they could build a piece of it here on Earth. This symbolic imperative is why the most stable architectural form was also the only form considered worthy of such a sacred task. The engineering made it stand, but the myth made it matter. And this deep need to connect with cosmic order reveals itself in one of the pyramid's most mesmerizing features, its silent conversation with the heavens above. The silent stones begin to speak when we look not at the ground but at the sky. Across the globe, these monuments share another uncanny trait, a precise and deliberate conversation with the cosmos. The Great Pyramid of Giza is not merely aligned to the cardinal directions. It is oriented to true north with an accuracy that still baffles engineers, its sides deviating by less than a fraction of a single degree. This was no accident of construction. It was a statement written in stone declaring the pharaoh's eternal place within a divinely ordered universe. Half a world away and millennia later, the builders of Teotihuacan in Mexico performed a similar feat. The Pyramid of the Sun, a massive earthen structure faced in stone, is not aligned to the grid of the city itself. Instead, its western face points directly to the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster on a key ceremonial date. For the people of Mesoamerica, the Pleiades, known as the Seven Sisters, held profound significance, marking agricultural cycles and the renewal of time itself. And we have already glimpsed the genius of Chichen Itza, where the pyramid becomes a dynamic clock. During the equinoxes, the play of light and shadow creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down the staircase, a direct manifestation of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan. This was architecture as celestial theater, a scheduled miracle that united the community under the witnessed power of cosmic order. What these examples reveal is a shared practice so fundamental it transcends culture, the meticulous observation of the heavens. The sun, the stars, the planets, they were the only universal constants, the same clockwork spectacle visible from every continent. Different cultures interpreted their movements through unique mythologies, but the raw data, the solstices, the equinoxes, the cyclical rise and fall of star groups was identical. Faced with this eternal, predictable dance above, humanity sought to anchor it below. The pyramid, with its stable, immovable base and its orientable faces, became the perfect instrument for this task. It was a stone telescope, a permanent observatory platform that could mark the sun's farthest journey or a star's sacred return. It was a giant calendar, its shadows and alignments tracking the passage of seasons, telling farmers when to plant and priests when to celebrate. This shared impulse to encode astronomical knowledge into architecture may be one of the most powerful drivers of the parallel design. When your most important task is to harmonize human life with the cycles of the cosmos, you build a monument that does not just reach for the sky but actively speaks with it. The pyramid's form, with its flat, open summit and clear lines, was uniquely suited to cast precise shadows and frame specific celestial events. So, from the Nile to the Yucatan, the same shape emerged as the ultimate interface between Earth and sky. But if the heavens provided a shared script and the pyramid was the shared stage, who or what was the shared director of this global performance? A mountain of stone demands more than faith, it requires an army. The spiritual vision that birthed the pyramid was inseparable from a raw, earthly reality, the immense power needed to make it real. This was never a project for a solitary priest or a small village. To build a pyramid was to command the very soul of a civilization, mobilizing thousands of laborers, engineers, and artisans for decades. In ancient Egypt, this was the ultimate expression of the pharaoh's divine mandate. The state organized a seasonal workforce, not slaves in chains, but farmers who worked on the royal project when the Nile's flood made their fields untouchable. They were housed, fed, and their labor was a form of tax, a duty to the god-king who ensured the cosmic order and the river's bounty. The pyramid itself was the receipt for this societal contract, a permanent, gleaming proof of what the kingdom, united under a single will, could achieve. It cemented the pharaoh's authority not just for his lifetime but for eternity, making his power as undeniable and enduring as the geometry of the monument itself. The message was clear for every subject gazing upon it. Here stands the center of your world, the anchor of all stability, and its builder is your link to the gods. This was architecture as the ultimate political tool, transforming spiritual belief into tangible, unshakable state control. Across the ocean, the pyramid served a parallel, unifying function in the bustling city-states of Mesoamerica. In places like Teotihuacan or Tikal, the pyramid was the beating heart of urban life. It physically and symbolically centralized everything. At its base sprawled great plazas where markets thrived and crowds gathered. It was the stage for spectacular public rituals where rulers, dressed as gods, would perform ceremonies of renewal, sacrifice, and cosmic alignment that the entire populace could witness. By climbing the pyramid, the ruler literally and figuratively ascended above the people, mediating between them and the divine forces that governed rain, sun, and corn. The visual dominance of these structures was absolute. In a flat jungle landscape or a mountain valley, the pyramid was the first and last thing you saw. It was an indelible marker on the horizon, a constant reminder of the hierarchy and order that held the community together. Its sheer scale communicated a simple, powerful truth: the authority that built this is greater than any individual. It commanded respect, obedience, and collective identity. This reveals a profound common thread weaving through deserts and jungles. Beyond shared engineering or stargazing, disparate societies faced a universal human challenge: how to organize large groups of people into a stable, cohesive whole. How do you make abstract authority concrete? How do you demonstrate that the social order is as permanent and natural as the hills? The pyramid was the answer carved in stone. It was a declaration of permanence in a fragile world, a symbol of hierarchy that everyone could see and understand. The need to manifest power in a durable, visible form seems to be a deep-seated driver of human civilization. Whether it was a pharaoh ensuring his eternal reign or a Maya lord unifying a city-state, the architectural solution they independently reached for was the same: a monumental, ascending form that dominated the landscape. The pyramid did not just reach for the gods, it grounded an entire social order, proving that the most spiritual shapes are often built upon the most practical foundations of power. This compelling pattern of isolated invention inevitably sparks a bold question: could there have been contact? For over a century, a controversial school of thought has argued for exactly that, proposing a grand diffusionist narrative. In this view, the pyramid blueprint was not independently discovered around the world, but was instead spread by a single, lost mother culture, perhaps the mythical Atlantis, or by intrepid transoceanic voyagers who crossed the seas in prehistoric times, seeding advanced knowledge among primitive peoples. Proponents of this idea point to intriguing, surface-level parallels that seem to whisper of connection. They highlight shared mythological themes like great flood stories found from Mesopotamia to the Americas. They note artistic motifs that bear a passing resemblance or construction techniques that appear vaguely similar. The most dramatic claims in recent memory involve the so-called Bosnian pyramids, a series of natural hill formations in Visoko that some have passionately argued are the remains of the oldest and largest pyramids on Earth, built by a forgotten European civilization. These claims, though widely rejected by mainstream archaeology, capture the public imagination because they offer a simpler, more romantic answer: a single, mysterious source for all human genius. It is a seductive story, one that turns the mystery into a global treasure hunt for a lost teacher. Yet when we scrutinize the evidence with the tools of modern science, this elegant theory begins to unravel. The archaeological record shows a clear, gradual evolution of the pyramid form in each region, from simple platforms to grand monuments, with no sudden, unexplained injection of advanced knowledge. The genetic histories of ancient peoples, mapped through decades of research, reveal deep isolation between the continents for thousands of years before the age of European exploration. The specific gods, the precise astronomical alignments, the mortuary practices, and the construction methods all differ profoundly in their details. A Maya priest would not recognize the purpose of an Egyptian burial chamber, and an Egyptian architect would be baffled by the purpose of a Mesoamerican temple summit. The diffusionist theory, in its simplest form, commits a subtle but profound injustice. It underestimates the breathtaking ingenuity of ancient cultures, implying they needed a teacher to arrive at such a sublime idea. It robs them of their own intellectual triumph. So if the blueprint was not carried across the oceans, and yet it emerged time and again, where did it truly come from? The answer may lie not in lost continents, but in the shared landscape of the human mind itself. Carl Jung looked past stone and star charts to find the source of the pyramid within the human psyche itself. A pioneering psychologist proposed a radical idea that beneath our personal memories and experiences lies a deeper layer he called the collective unconscious. Think of it not as a personal attic of memories, but as the shared bedrock of the human mind, a foundational stratum common to us all. Within this shared psychic ground, Jung believed, reside universal patterns and primordial images which he named archetypes. These are not learned concepts, but innate templates, like the deep blueprints for a story that every culture tells in its own language. The mother, the hero, the trickster, the wise old man, these are archetypal figures that appear in myths from every corner of the globe, wearing different names but fulfilling the same profound roles in our collective imagination. And central among these universal forms, Jung identified the sacred mountain, the axis mundi, the world center. From this psychological perspective, the global emergence of the pyramid is not a case of cultural diffusion or even purely practical engineering. It is the materialization of a dream we all share. When a society reaches a certain threshold of self-awareness, when it begins to ask the big questions about its place in the cosmos, this latent image, sleeping in the collective unconscious, begins to stir. It rises into the conscious mind of priests, rulers, and architects as a powerful, compelling vision, the need to build a sacred center, a point of connection between the earthly and the divine. The pyramid, in all its variations, is that vision rendered in permanent, tangible form. It is the archetype of the world mountain made real, dreamed up independently because the dream itself is a common human inheritance. This theory offers a profound, non-materialist explanation for our mystery. It suggests that the urge to build a pyramid is as innate to the human spirit as the urge to build a home. One satisfies the physical need for shelter, the other satisfies a psychic need for order, meaning, and connection to something greater. The form feels right because it resonates with a pattern already etched into the deepest layers of who we are. It is architecture not just as engineering or astronomy, but as externalized psychology, a stone testament to the shared symbols that shape our reality. This view does not dismiss the practical or astronomical reasons, but enfolds them into a larger story. The stable, sloping form was the logical engineering choice, yes. The alignments honored the celestial order, certainly, but perhaps we chose that form and sought those alignments because they echoed a symbol already singing within us. The pyramid, then, becomes more than a building. It is a manifestation of a fundamental human impulse to make the inner world outer, to give solid geometry to our most profound spiritual intuitions. If Jung's collective unconscious holds the blueprint, then every civilization that ever raised a pyramid was, in a sense, remembering the same ancient dream. But this leads us to a final, modern frontier of this mystery, one that shifts the question from the past to the future, and from psychology to a more speculative science. The story of the pyramid finds a perfect laboratory in the sands of modern Sudan. Here, at the royal necropolis of Meroë, stand dozens of steep-sided, sharp-angled pyramids, a silent city of stone that tells a very different tale. These are the pyramids of the Kingdom of Kush, built not in the age of the pharaohs but centuries later, between 800 years before the Common Era and 300 years after. Their existence offers a critical test case, a clear example of what happens when the architectural blueprint is not dreamed in isolation, but passed directly from one civilization to another. The Kushites were not strangers to Egypt. They were neighbors, rivals, and at times its rulers. For a period, Kushite kings even sat on the throne of Egypt as the 25th dynasty. This prolonged and intimate contact meant the pyramid form was not an independent invention here. It was a borrowed prestige symbol, a direct import of cultural power. The evidence of diffusion is undeniable. The very idea of a pyramid as a royal tomb, its placement within a necropolis, the use of funerary texts, all of this flowed north to south along the Nile. Yet, something remarkable happened when the idea took root in Kushite soil. It evolved. The Meroë pyramids are not copies, they are adaptations. They are notably steeper, with angles around 70 degrees, giving them a slender, needle-like profile against the sky, distinct from the more gradual slopes of Giza. Their construction technique differed, often using smaller blocks and a core of rubble. Most tellingly, they featured a unique architectural element, a distinctive offering chapel attached to the eastern base, decorated with elaborate reliefs showing the ruler in the presence of the gods. This chapel was the stage for a continuing cult of the dead, a focus for rituals long after the king's passing. Meroë demonstrates that when contact is real, styles do not simply replicate, they converse. The Kushites took a powerful Egyptian form and made it distinctly their own, infusing it with their own aesthetic, religious practices, and engineering methods. This creates a brilliant point of comparison. By placing Meroë beside the pyramids of Teotihuacan or Chichén Itzá, the distinction becomes stunningly clear. The Mesoamerican pyramids share the fundamental form, the ascending sacred mountain, but none of the specific cultural details, the burial function, the hieroglyphic texts, or the chapel design. This sharpens our entire investigation. Meroë shows us the fingerprints of borrowing, the hallmarks of a shared cultural language. The truly independent pyramids of the Americas and Asia, by their stark contrast, reveal the fingerprints of something else, a deeper, shared human impulse. They help us isolate the universal core, the archetypal mountain, from the culturally specific decorations applied to it. One is a chapter in a shared history book, the other is the same sentence written in a completely different language. This test case brings us to the edge of our mystery, forcing a final, profound question. If the form is so deeply rooted in our shared consciousness, could it be pointing us toward something even more fundamental? A pattern woven into the fabric of reality itself. But what about other shapes? If the human mind naturally dreams of sacred mountains, why did we not build domes or spirals? To solve this, we must look at the cold, hard logic of material and force. The dome and the true arch, those elegant curves that would later crown cathedrals and span Roman aqueducts, represent a later chapter in our architectural story. They require a sophisticated understanding of tensile forces and the genius of the keystone, a wedge-shaped block that locks an entire structure in perfect, self-supporting compression. This was not intuitive technology. It was a brilliant leap forward that civilizations would master only after millennia of building with simpler principles. Before that leap, builders were constrained by a fundamental rule: stone and brick are incredibly strong when squeezed, but terribly weak when pulled or bent. You cannot make a long, flat stone roof without it cracking under its own weight. So, how do you create a tall structure with interior space? The most straightforward answer is to stack and to slope. The pyramid is the ultimate expression of this stacking principle, a mountain of material where every element is in pure, stable compression. Even the corbelled arch, a brilliant innovation used by the Maya in their temple chambers, reveals this stepping stone logic. To create a roof, they would stack stones in inward sloping courses, each layer cantilevering slightly over the one below until the gap at the top could be sealed with a single capstone. Look at the profile of such a chamber from the outside, and what you see is essentially a small pyramid built over an empty space. It is the pyramid's form inverted to create a hollow. This technological bottleneck is crucial. For early civilizations working with compressive materials like stone, mud brick, or earth, the architectural menu was strikingly limited. To achieve monumentality, to create something that touched the sky and sheltered a sacred space within, the most reliable options were the mound, a pile of earth, and the pyramid, a refined geometric mound. Given this shared material reality, the global appearance of the pyramidal form begins to seem less like a mystical coincidence and more like an inevitable step in a universal sequence. Different cultures, facing the same physical constraints with the same goal of reaching upward, were funneled by the laws of physics toward the same elegant, stable solution. The pyramid wasn't just a spiritual choice, it was often the only logical one. This brings us to a profound shift in perspective. Perhaps the pyramid is not merely a shape, but a signature. It marks a specific, pivotal moment in the life of a civilization. Across the globe, from the Nile Valley to the Valley of Mexico, this monumental form emerges not in a society's infancy, nor in its old age, but during its ambitious adolescence. This is the moment when a collection of villages and tribes coalesces into something entirely new, an early state. This transformation is built on three powerful pillars. First, a surplus of food, where advanced agriculture like the irrigation of the Nile or the cultivation of maize creates enough wealth that not everyone has to farm. This frees up labor for other grand pursuits. Second, a centralized authority, a ruler or priestly class with the power to command that surplus and direct the lives of thousands. And third, a complex, unifying religion that provides a divine mandate for that authority and a shared purpose for the people. When these three forces converge, a society enters what anthropologists call its monumental phase. It is a period of explosive cultural confidence, a first collective deep breath before a great shout into eternity. The society, for the first time, possesses the resources, the organization, and the ideological drive to alter the very face of the earth. And what is the most immediate, most powerful statement it can make? It builds a mountain. The pyramid is that shout made permanent. It is the ultimate public works project, a society's first and most audacious resume. Think of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its construction required the coordination of tens of thousands of workers, architects, and overseers, a logistical feat impossible without a highly centralized state apparatus. It consumed a vast portion of Egypt's wealth and labor for decades, a testament to the agricultural surplus of the Nile, and every aspect of its design, from its solar alignments to its internal passages, served a complex state religion that placed the pharaoh at the center of cosmic order. The same pattern unfolds in Mesopotamia with the Ziggurats, and in Mesoamerica with the great temple cities. Even in the Andes, where the form manifested as massive platform mounds rather than true pyramids, the underlying impulse was identical. These were societies declaring, "We are no longer just a people, we are a civilization. We have mastered our environment, we are united under a common vision, and this stone mountain is the proof." So the recurring shape begins to look less like a shared dream of a sacred mountain and more like a shared symptom of a specific cultural fever. It is the material expression of a universal human transition, the moment a society graduates from survival to legacy. The need to make that collective statement, to physically manifest newfound power and unity, appears to be a powerful engine of cultural evolution. And for reasons both practical and symbolic, the pyramidal form became the default architectural language for that statement. This reframes our entire mystery. We are not looking for a lost teacher or a psychic blueprint. We are witnessing a rule of social physics. When human societies reach a certain threshold of complexity, they tend to build in a certain way. The pyramid is less about what they believed and more about what they had finally become. But the story of this shared pattern does not end with stone. On the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River, a different kind of mountain rose, built not from quarried blocks but from countless baskets of earth. Here at the great city of Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, Monk's Mound stands as the largest prehistoric earthen structure north of Mexico. It is not a smooth-sided geometric pyramid, but a colossal, flat-topped platform mound ascending in 4 vast terraces. At its peak, over 100 feet above the surrounding plains, stood a grand temple, likely housing the city's ruler and serving as the sacred heart of the community. Monk's Mound was the anchor of a sprawling metropolis that, at its height around the year 1100, was larger than London of the same era. This was not an isolated monument. It was the centerpiece of a carefully planned cosmological landscape, surrounded by a grand plaza and a ring of smaller mounds that mirrored celestial patterns. The people of the Mississippian culture who built this awe-inspiring complex never saw a Mesoamerican pyramid or an Egyptian tomb, yet they channeled the same profound impulse. They took the very earth beneath their feet and reshaped it into a sacred, hierarchical space. The material was humble, but the vision was monumental. These mounds were socio-religious engines. Their immense scale required the coordinated labor of thousands, demonstrating a powerful, centralized authority. Their towering presence physically elevated the temple and the elite, making the social order visible and undeniable. Climbing the ramps to the summit was a ritual act, a movement from the mundane world of the plaza to the exalted realm of the divine and the powerful. This broadens our understanding of the global pattern tremendously. It shows us that the shared architectural idea is not strictly about a triangular silhouette in stone. It is about the act of monumental ascent itself. Whether using carved limestone or packed soil, cultures separated by continents independently arrived at the same solution for marking a sacred center and manifesting their worldview in 3 dimensions. The mound is the pyramid's conceptual cousin, proving that the drive to build a ceremonial mountain is a universal theme, adaptable to any environment and any material at hand. If the earth was abundant and stone was scarce, you built with earth. The goal remained unchanged: to create a permanent axis where society, spirituality, and power converged. Stone holds more than weight, it holds a voice. Beyond the silent geometry and celestial alignments, emerging research hints at another layer of meaning woven into the pyramid's form, one that speaks directly to the senses. Imagine standing in the heart of the Great Pyramid, not in the echoing grandeur of the king's chamber, but in one of its narrow, ascending passages. The air is still, the darkness profound. If you were to speak or chant, the sound would not simply dissipate into the void. The precise, smooth, and confined stone walls, meeting at a sharp angle above you, would act as a perfect waveguide. Sound waves would reflect and channel along the passageway, traveling with unusual clarity and force. Some acoustic researchers propose that these structures might even resonate at specific low frequencies, frequencies that could produce a palpable, physical sensation in the body, a hum felt in the bones as much as heard by the ears. This is not modern speculation imposed on the past, but a rediscovery of a property inherent to the shape itself. The builders, through trial and error, may have learned that these sloped, enclosed spaces did something remarkable to sound, transforming the human voice or the beat of a drum into something more powerful, more otherworldly. This transforms the pyramid from a silent monument into a kind of instrument, its very architecture designed to shape and amplify sacred experience. This sensory discovery was not confined to Egypt. Across the ocean, the stairways of Mesoamerican pyramids served a parallel acoustic purpose. The grand staircase of El Castillo at Chichén Itzá is not just a climb to the temple, it is a vast stone soundboard. When a priest or ruler stood at the summit and spoke, their voice would project down the steep, textured steps. The sound waves would bounce off each irregular stone surface, creating a complex, rolling echo that reached the vast plaza below not as a single voice, but as a layered, reverberating chorus. For the thousands gathered in the courtyard, the effect would have been mesmerizing. The leader's words, amplified and multiplied by the architecture itself, would seem to emanate from the temple itself, from the very mouth of the god. A handclap at the base of the Pyramid of the Moon in Teotihuacan produces a sharp, distinct echo that some studies suggest mimics the call of the sacred Quetzal bird. These were not accidents. They were engineered experiences designed to use the physics of sound to blur the line between the human and the divine. The ceremony was not just seen, it was felt in the chest and heard in a way that ordinary spaces could not produce. If different cultures experimenting with stone and slope independently found that this form created these powerful auditory effects, it offers a compelling, practical reason for its sacred adoption. The pyramid shape, it seems, was not only visually dominant and structurally stable, but also acoustically potent. This insight invites us to reconsider these spaces as multisensory environments. The goal was total immersion. The climb itself was a physical ordeal, elevating the participant literally and metaphorically. The summit offered a breathtaking, God's-eye view of the ordered world below. And now we can understand that the sound within and around these structures was meticulously curated. Chants, drum beats, or invocations, shaped by the stone, would fill the air with a tangible presence. This fusion of sight, sound, and physical exertion could induce powerful states of awareness, focusing the mind and overwhelming the ordinary senses to open a doorway to the sacred. The pyramid, therefore, may represent the pinnacle of ancient experiential design. Different cultures, seeking the most effective way to create a transformative ritual space, may have all been guided by the same natural principles of acoustics. They discovered that sloped, massive stone walls reflected and directed energy, both spiritual and sonic, with unparalleled efficiency. So the convergence on this form might be as simple and as profound as this. When humanity sought to build a machine for connecting with the unseen, the pyramid was the shape that worked. It focused the eyes upward, it channeled the voice outward, and it made the presence of the divine feel astonishingly, reverberantly real. Geometry is the silent language of the universe, and the pyramid is its most eloquent word. This shape is not merely stable or symbolic, it is mathematically pure, a three-dimensional expression of fundamental truths. At its core, a pyramid is the simplest way to build a monumental, enclosed space using triangles, the most rigid and stable geometric form. This pursuit of geometric perfection was not just about engineering, it was a spiritual act, an attempt to carve cosmic order from raw stone. Perhaps the most famous example of this is found in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Modern measurements reveal astonishing ratios encoded in its dimensions. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 times pi, the mathematical constant that defines the circle. Similarly, the proportions of its inner chambers and outer faces seem to whisper of the golden ratio, a special number, approximately 1.618, that appears throughout nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the branching of trees. Scholars fiercely debate whether the ancient Egyptians intentionally designed these ratios or if they emerged from their sophisticated measurement systems. But the result is the same, a structure that feels inherently harmonious, as if it resonates with a hidden order underlying the visible world. This was not mere coincidence. For a civilization that saw the pharaoh as the maintainer of cosmic balance, building his eternal house with proportions that mirrored the harmony of creation was the ultimate act of duty. The pyramid was a mathematical prayer, a formula for eternity written in limestone. Yet this powerful convergence on a single form can be dangerously misleading. To see only the silhouette is to miss the true story written in the details. The most compelling evidence for independent invention lies not in the shared shape, but in the profound, fundamental differences that define each culture's creation. An Egyptian pyramid and a Mesoamerican temple may share a pyramidal profile, but in their purpose, their soul, and their very substance, they are worlds apart. The Great Pyramid of Giza was a sealed vessel for eternity. Its entrance was hidden, its passages blocked by massive granite plugs. Its final chamber, designed to house a single king's, remains for all time, never to be seen again by the living. It was a monument of finality, a perfect, silent geometric mountain focused inward on the journey of one soul. Now walk to the base of the Temple of the Sun at Teotihuacan. Its purpose was the opposite. This was a living, breathing stage. Its broad, steep staircases were meant to be climbed again and again by priests and rulers performing public ceremonies for the community. The summit was not a sealed tomb, but an open-air platform crowned with a temple, a place of vibrant ritual activity focused outward toward the people and the cosmos. One was a door closed forever, the other a door perpetually open. The methods of their construction tell the same tale of divergence. Egyptian masons achieved a legendary precision, quarrying and dressing massive limestone and granite blocks to fit together with seams often thinner than a credit card, creating those iconic smooth, gleaming faces. In Mesoamerica, builders frequently employed a very different technique. They would construct a massive earthen core, then face it with a shell of cut stone or stucco. The Great Pyramid of Collula is the most dramatic example, being largely a giant man-made hill encased in masonry. The decorative language speaks an entirely different vocabulary. Egyptian pyramids were relatively austere on the outside, their power in their geometry, while their internal walls might be covered in hieroglyphs from the Book of the Dead, spells to guide the pharaoh through the underworld. A Maya pyramid, in contrast, was a riot of color and sculpture on the exterior, adorned with intricate carvings of feathered serpents, rain gods, and cosmological symbols, painted in vivid pigments of red, blue, and yellow. The internal layouts bear no resemblance. The chambers, corridors, and symbolic pathways are arranged according to completely distinct religious blueprints. These are not minor stylistic variations. They are the fingerprints of unique cultural minds. They prove that what was shared was not a specific blueprint, but a profound set of universal human questions. How do we honor our gods and connect with the cosmos? How do we express the absolute power of our ruler and our state? How do we confront the mystery of death and ensure order in the afterlife? Different civilizations, looking at their own landscapes and listening to their own myths, arrived at different answers. Yet, when they sought to materialize those answers in the most permanent or inspiring way possible, the logic of physics, the symbolism of the sacred mountain, and the need for monumental statement funneled them toward the same potent, stable, ascending form. The pyramid is not a case of everyone copying the same idea. It is a case of everyone, independently, finding the same perfect tool for a job that every complex society eventually undertakes. The pattern reveals not a shared teacher, but a shared human genius for turning profound questions into enduring stone. The timeless shape did not vanish with the ancient world, it simply found new gods. Our modern skylines are still punctuated by the pyramid, its meaning transformed but its power undiminished. In Paris, the Louvre Pyramid stands not as a tomb or temple, but as a breathtaking portal. Its glass and steel frame, a geometric jewel in the courtyard of a classical palace, speaks of transparency, light, and a bridge between the artistic past and the present. It is a symbol of modernity itself, using an ancient form to invite us into a new world of discovery. Across the Atlantic, the Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco slices into the sky as a sleek, corporate ziggurat. Its sharp, tapered form communicates ambition, stability, and a distinct, almost futuristic identity, proving the shape can embody financial power as readily as spiritual authority. From Las Vegas casinos to avant-garde art museums, the pyramid persists. It has been stripped of its specific religious context, yet it retains an aura. It signals something monumental, something enduring, and something faintly mysterious. We no longer build them to reach the sun god, but we choose this form when we want to make a statement that cannot be ignored, to create an icon that stands apart from the boxy grids of ordinary architecture. This enduring appeal is the final, powerful clue to our mystery. It tells us that the forces which compelled an Egyptian pharaoh or a Maya lord were not just about their time or their theology. The psychological and aesthetic pull of the pyramid is woven into us. We still associate its stable, ascending geometry with aspiration, with a reaching for something greater, whether that is corporate success, cultural enlightenment, or simply awe. Our contemporary pyramids are not copies, they are acknowledgements. They are proof that when we seek to build something iconic, something that conveys grandeur and permanence, the oldest shape in the monumental playbook still feels instinctively right. The connection between our glass towers and those ancient temple mountains is not one of direct lineage, but of a shared human impulse to make a mark that points upward. Yet this very wonder, the breathtaking scale of our ancestors' independent achievements, has also given rise to a modern echo chamber of myth. The silent stones seem to beg for a storyteller, and in the absence of certain answers, some have filled the void with tales of lost continents and cosmic engineers. These narratives, often called pseudo-archaeology, propose that the pyramids could not possibly be the work of human hands alone. They suggest instead that a superior intelligence, whether from the legendary Atlantis or from distant stars, provided the blueprint and perhaps even the technology. It is a seductive idea, offering a simple, singular source for all this global genius. Who laid the first cornerstone? The answer becomes a mysterious, all-knowing other, a teacher from beyond. Mainstream scholarship rejects these claims, but not out of stubbornness or a closed mind. The dismissal is rooted in a fundamental principle of investigation known as Occam's razor. This guiding idea suggests that among competing explanations, the simplest one that fits all the available facts is usually correct. When we apply this lens, the alien or Atlantean hypothesis requires a cascade of extraordinary assumptions. It presumes the existence of an advanced, globe-trotting civilization for which there is no archaeological trace, no genetic evidence in ancient populations, and no reliable historical record. It then assumes this civilization chose to share only one specific architectural idea while leaving no evidence of their other technologies, their ships, their tools, or their own homes. Finally, it requires that every culture that received this gift then forgot the teachers entirely, remembering only the shape. The simpler explanation, the one supported by decades of meticulous excavation, carbon dating, and cultural analysis, is that human beings in different environments, asking similar questions about the cosmos and power, independently arrived at a similar and supremely logical architectural solution. This is not a less amazing story. In fact, it is a far more profound one. It means that the spark of monumental creativity ignited not once from a single external flame, but again and again from the innate genius of humanity itself. To credit aliens or a lost superculture is in a subtle way to diminish our ancestors. It robs the Egyptians of their mastery of astronomy and logistics, the Maya of their profound understanding of time, the Kushites of their innovative adaptation. It turns these diverse, sophisticated societies into passive recipients rather than active, brilliant creators. The true mystery is not who might have helped them, but how they did it on their own. By setting aside the sensational, we clear the stage for a deeper appreciation. We can marvel at the Sumerian priest-astronomer who first charted the stars from a mudbrick ziggurat, at the Egyptian engineer who calculated the precise angle to channel the sun's rays, at the Maya sculptor who carved a cosmic calendar into a limestone staircase. Their achievements stand as enduring monuments to human curiosity, cooperation, and the relentless drive to make meaning from the raw materials of the earth and the patterns of the sky. The pyramids do not point to extraterrestrial visitors. They point to the limitless potential of the human mind when united by a shared vision. That is a wonder far more connected to us and far more worthy of our awe. Perhaps the most primal inspiration lay right outside their door. Look at the landscapes that cradled these early civilizations. In Egypt, the Nile Valley is a narrow ribbon of life, a flat, fertile plain abruptly bounded by the sheer, triangular cliffs of the eastern and western deserts. To the Egyptians, these natural pyramids were the ramparts of the known world, the home of the sun god Ra, who was reborn each dawn from behind those eastern peaks. Is it any wonder that when they sought to build a home for eternity, they sculpted a perfect geometric echo of those divine mountains? Their pyramids were not just tombs but idealized, permanent versions of the natural forms that defined their horizon. They took the chaotic beauty of the cliff face and gave it the order of mathematics, creating a mountain that would never erode. This same visual dialogue unfolded in Mesoamerica. The Valley of Mexico is encircled by towering, often snow-capped volcanic peaks. For the people of Teotihuacan, these were not just landmarks, they were gods, sources of water, fertility, and awe. Their pyramids, like the massive pyramid of the sun, rise from the valley floor as man-made counterparts to those distant, sacred volcanoes. They are cultural mountains, built where nature did not provide one, to serve as the ritual heart of the city. Even in Mesopotamia, a land of flat, featureless alluvial plains, the environmental inspiration is clear. With no natural high ground, the Sumerians felt a profound need to create their own. The ziggurat was an artificial mountain born from an absence, a response to a landscape that offered no vantage point to approach the heavens. In each case, the environment provided the raw visual vocabulary. The pyramid form is at its essence a stylized, geometric reduction of a mountain. It distills the essence of a peak, its stability, its ascent, its dominance over the plain, into a clean, buildable shape. But the environment offered more than just a shape, it provided a rhythm. For river valley civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia, life was governed by the annual flood. This was a cycle of destruction and renewal, of death followed by miraculous rebirth. The pyramid, standing immutable and solid upon the flat, fertile plain, may have embodied that very principle. While the waters rose and receded, the seasons turned and generations passed, the stone mountain endured. It was a testament to permanence amidst flux, a symbol of the eternal order that underpinned the chaotic cycle of life. So the landscape was not just a backdrop, it was the first teacher. It presented the form of the mountain and the concept of cyclical renewal. Each culture then took these raw materials and interpreted them through the unique lens of their own gods, their own myths, and their own understanding of the cosmos. The environment posed the question in stone and sky, and humanity answered with a pyramid. A mountain of stone begins not with a quarry, but with a society. To envision a pyramid is one thing, but to raise one from the earth demands a revolution in human organization. This is where our search for a shared blueprint moves from the landscape of ideas to the very fabric of community. The form could not exist without a specific, powerful social engine behind it. That engine is the coordinated state, a new kind of human community that emerges when scattered villages and tribes unite under a common vision and a centralized authority. The pyramid is not just an architectural feat, it is the ultimate receipt for this social contract, the physical proof that a civilization has achieved a breathtaking level of collective purpose. Think of what it takes. You need architects who can translate a spiritual vision into precise geometric plans. You need overseers who can manage the logistics of thousands, coordinating teams of quarrymen, haulers, masons, and artisans. You need a system to feed, house, and supply this army of labor, often for decades. And you need an ideology so compelling that people willingly contribute their labor, seeing this monumental task not as a burden, but as a sacred duty that ensures cosmic order and communal survival. This complex web of roles, planners, managers, skilled workers, and supporters is the hallmark of a society that has moved beyond mere subsistence. It has generated a surplus, not just of food, but of organizational capacity. The ability to direct that surplus toward a single, non-utilitarian goal, a goal that provides no immediate shelter or food, is a profound turning point. It signals that a culture is now investing in its identity, its legacy, and its connection to the eternal. When we see a pyramid in Egypt, a ziggurat in Mesopotamia, or a temple mountain in Mesoamerica, we are not just looking at a building. We are looking at the crystallization of a social achievement. The shared architectural pattern, therefore, is a symptom of a much deeper, global pattern of social evolution. Different cultures in different environments each crossed a similar threshold of complexity. They each developed the mechanisms to coordinate human activity on a staggering scale. The pyramid is the signature they all chose to leave behind, the undeniable monument that declares we are no longer just a people, we are a civilization capable of bending the earth itself to our collective will. This reframes the mystery beautifully. The convergence is not about copying a shape, but about reaching a similar stage in the story of human society. When a culture becomes capable of such a project, the pyramid form presents itself as the most logical, most powerful canvas upon which to paint that new reality. It is the shape of a society that has learned to speak with a single, thunderous voice. This deep human impulse to build a safe mountain may echo from a time before history. Across the globe, in traditions from Mesopotamia to the Andes, stories persist of a great deluge, a catastrophic flood that reshaped the world. In these myths, survival often hinges on finding refuge on high ground, a sacred mountain or a great vessel that rises above the chaos. Some researchers, looking at this universal theme, propose a fascinating and speculative idea. Could the persistent form of the pyramid be rooted in a kind of cultural memory, a shared, subconscious recollection of a primordial sanctuary? The theory suggests that the archetype of the safe mountain, the place of survival and renewal after a world-altering event, became so deeply embedded in human storytelling that it eventually sought physical expression. When early civilizations gained the ability to alter their landscape monumentally, they may not have been inventing a new form, but reconstructing an ancient, almost instinctual ideal of protection and permanence. The pyramid, in this view, becomes more than a temple or tomb. It becomes an architectural prayer for stability, a deliberate recreation of that mythical high ground where order was preserved amidst the flood. It is an attempt to build, in permanent stone, a refuge against any future chaos, whether from nature, the gods, or the uncertainty of the cosmos itself. This narrative connects the dots between universal disaster myths and the universal appeal of the pyramidal shape. For a culture that told stories of a world cleansed by water, constructing an artificial, indestructible mountain would be a profound act of defiance and hope. It says, we remember the flood and we build this so it may never happen again. We create our own permanent high ground, a sacred anchor that will hold fast against any storm. While this idea remains in the realm of speculation, lacking direct archaeological proof, it offers a powerful psychological lens. It frames the pyramid not just as a reach for the heavens, but as a fortress against the abyss. The sloping sides do not only channel weight downward, they could be seen as shedding the waters of chaos. The summit is not just a place for the gods, but a secured citadel. This interpretation adds a poignant layer to our understanding. Perhaps these civilizations were not only aspiring toward something, but also protecting themselves from a remembered or feared nothingness. The drive to create permanence takes on a new urgency if the collective memory holds a whisper of total loss. So while we may never find evidence of a single, global cataclysm that inspired every pyramid builder, the persistence of the flood myth reveals a shared human anxiety about the fragility of our world. The pyramid, then, stands as the ultimate response to that anxiety. It is humanity's answer to its own deepest fears, written in the most durable language we know, the language of stone. It is our attempt to build a memory so solid, so immovable, that it could outlast any flood, any disaster, any turn of time's wheel. The Andes present a fascinating puzzle, a landscape where the pyramid seems to vanish. Here, across the high plateaus and coastal valleys, the monumental architecture of ancient cultures like the Chavin, the Moche, and later the Inca took a distinctly different form. Instead of pointed, triangular peaks, they built vast, flat-topped platform mounds known as huacas, and imposing U-shaped temple complexes that embraced the land rather than piercing the sky. This is not a minor variation, it is a fundamental deviation, a critical counter-example that tests the very rule of a global pyramid pattern. If the form was such an inevitable expression of complex society, why did these extraordinarily sophisticated cultures choose another path? Their choice forces us to refine our understanding, proving that the pyramid was not an absolute destiny, but one profoundly powerful option among several. The reasons for this Andean exception are written in the very earth and sky of the region. First, consider the cosmology. Andean spirituality was deeply rooted in concepts of duality and reciprocity, known as Yanantin, and the sacredness of the earthly landscape itself, the Apus or mountain spirits. Their temples often served as models of this worldview. The massive U-shaped complex at Chavin de Huanta, for instance, is not a mountain to ascend, but a ceremonial center built to resemble a sacred cave or a crouching jaguar, an entrance to the underworld. Its form embraces a central plaza, drawing energy inward and downward, connecting with the earth's power and the flow of water, which was meticulously channeled through intricate stone canals. The goal was not to launch a soul upward, but to connect with the vital forces within the world. Secondly, the materials dictated the form. In a land of frequent, powerful earthquakes, the classic steep-sided pyramid of stone blocks is a recipe for collapse. Andean engineers were masters of seismic resilience. They built with smaller, irregular fieldstones set in clay mortar, or with enormous quantities of sun-dried adobe bricks. These materials perform best in wide, stable, terraced platforms with gently sloping sides, structures that can absorb and dissipate seismic energy. The Huaca del Sol, built by the Moche culture, is a gigantic adobe platform mound, once possibly 160 feet tall. Its form is a mountain of earth, not a geometric peak, its strength lying in its massive, graduated bulk. Finally, the very purpose of these structures often differed. While they were certainly centers of ritual and power, many huacas served as administrative hubs, storage facilities, or stages for communal gatherings that required large, flat summits, not a narrow apex for a single priest. This Andean divergence is not a failure to conceive of the pyramid, but a brilliant adaptation to a different set of spiritual questions, environmental challenges, and practical needs. It tells us that the shared human impulse is not to build a pyramid, but to build a meaningful, monumental center. The Andes chose the platform and the U-shaped embrace. This exception makes the widespread adoption of the pointed pyramid elsewhere even more striking. It confirms that when cultures from the Nile to the Yucatan independently selected that specific, soaring form, they were responding to a particularly potent combination of symbolic aspiration and material logic that resonated across continents. Their choice highlights a specific kind of cosmic conversation, one that reached not just for the Earth's heart, but insistently for the sun. The pyramid's greatest power may not be in its summit, but in the climb to reach it. This structure is not a static monument to be admired from afar. It is a path, a journey made solid. From the sun-baked ramps of a Mesopotamian ziggurat to the steep stone staircases of a Maya temple, the architecture demands participation. You cannot simply arrive at the sacred, you must move toward it, step by deliberate step. The physical act of ascending is the core ritual, a transformative process woven into the stone itself. With each upward movement, the climber leaves the ordinary world behind. The bustling plaza, the murmur of daily life, the flat and familiar earth, all of it recedes. The air may thin, the wind may grow stronger, and the only sound becomes your own breath and the echo of your feet on stone. This exertion is not an obstacle, it is the point. It creates a psychological and spiritual transition, a tangible separation between the profane ground and the sacred summit. The body's effort mirrors the soul's striving, purifying the climber, preparing them to stand in a space that is no longer entirely of this world. For the Sumerian priest, this climb was a literal approach to the dwelling of the gods. For the Maya ruler, it was a reenactment of a mythical ascent, proving his divine right with every step. Even in Egypt, where the smooth faces were never meant for living feet, the pharaoh's soul was believed to climb the solidified rays of the sun, an effortless yet profound spiritual ascent following the same upward trajectory. This transforms the pyramid from a mere symbol into a participatory stage. It is a machine for creating experience. The architecture sets the scene, defines the path, and heightens the drama, but it requires a human actor to complete its purpose. The ritual of ascent embeds a universal spiritual narrative directly into the structure, a story of effort, of leaving the old behind, of purification through ordeal, and of final elevation. The pyramid does not just represent a sacred mountain, it provides the visceral, breathless experience of climbing one. In this way, the shared form speaks to a shared understanding of how humans connect with the divine, not through passive observation, but through active, embodied journey. The true message is carved not in the stones at the top, but in the steps that lead there. Stone becomes a sundial and shadow a sacred messenger. This architectural dialogue with the sun reaches its most breathtaking expression not in silent alignments, but in dramatic, scheduled performances of light. Beyond simply facing a cardinal direction, the greatest pyramids were engineered to capture the sun's journey, transforming inert stone into dynamic cosmic theater. The most iconic of these spectacles unfolds at Chichén Itzá. As the sun sets on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the northwest corner of El Castillo casts a series of triangular shadows down the balustrade of the northern staircase. These interlocking shapes merge to form the undulating body of a serpent, appearing to slither down from the temple summit to meet its stone head at the base. This was no happy accident of geometry. It was a meticulously calculated event, a moment when the boundary between architecture and mythology dissolved before the eyes of the entire community. For a few minutes each year, the pyramid proved it was alive, a conduit for the feathered serpent god Kukulkan to descend and bless the earth. It was a divine appointment written in stone and sunlight. This mastery of solar geometry was a global pursuit. In the Great Pyramid of Giza, narrow shafts, often mislabeled as air vents, pierced the massive masonry from the king's chamber deep within, angling precisely upward to target specific stars. While their stellar alignments are famous, these channels also create profound interactions with sunlight. On certain dates, the low-angled sun of the equinoxes could potentially send a beam of light creeping down these narrow tunnels, illuminating the interior chamber in a way that ordinary daylight never could. Imagine the impact for a priest or astronomer witnessing this event in the otherwise perpetual gloom, a sliver of the sun itself penetrating hundreds of feet of stone to mark a sacred moment. The pyramid was not just aligned to the cosmos, it was designed to let the cosmos in. Even the basic form of the stepped pyramid, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, was a perfect canvas for this solar artistry. The sharp, clean edges of each tier create long, dramatic shadows that shrink and grow with the sun's passage. At noon, the structure might appear as a stark, geometric form. But at dawn or dusk, it transforms. The low sun stretches the shadows of each step, turning the pyramid into a layered pattern of deep black and brilliant gold, a visual manifestation of the duality of light and dark, day and night. This was not merely aesthetic, it was informational. The moving line of shadow across the pyramid's face could act as a giant public clock, marking the hours, or its length could indicate the changing seasons. The pyramid's very silhouette became a tool for tracking time, its relationship with the sun changing predictably from solstice to solstice. Why would cultures separated by continents all invest such genius in this solar choreography? The answer lies in a shared, fundamental understanding. The sun was not just a light in the sky, it was the ultimate life-giver, the engine of agriculture, the definer of time, and often a deity itself. To build a monument that merely faced the sun was passive. To build one that actively conversed with it, that could catch its light and shape its shadow into meaningful symbols, was an act of profound partnership. It demonstrated a civilization's mastery over natural law to serve spiritual truth. They were not just observing celestial cycles, they were ritualizing them, embedding the sun's dependable rhythm into the heart of their community's ceremonial life. This shared desire to capture and ritualize the sun's movement offers a compelling clue to the global form. What architectural shape is better suited for this purpose than a pyramid? Its large, flat, angled surfaces are perfect projection screens for light and shadow. Its precise geometry allows for accurate calculations of where a shadow will fall at any given moment. A dome or a spiral would scatter light. A simple cube would offer only blunt, unchanging shadows. But a pyramid, with its clean lines and sloping sides, provides a dynamic, predictable, and dramatic interface with the sun. It turns the entire structure into a calibrated instrument. When your most sacred goal is to manifest the power of the sun in a scheduled or inspiring display, the pyramid is the shape that makes that miracle possible. The stones were silent until the sun gave them a voice, and that voice, across deserts and jungles, told the same story of a universe in motion, witnessed and honored from below. Centuries after their last priest ascended the stairs, the pyramids stood silent. They had outlived the civilizations that birthed them, becoming enigmas wrapped in stone. To the Roman legionaries who marched past Giza, the smooth-faced giants were already impossibly ancient, monuments from a lost world they could scarcely comprehend. They scratched graffiti into the stones, tourists in an age when the pharaohs' names had faded into myth. The pyramids were no longer functioning sacred machines. They were sublime curiosities, their original purpose shrouded in the mists of time. This transition from living temple to mysterious ruin is a crucial chapter in their story. A pyramid's power does not end when its last ceremony concludes, it simply changes form. It becomes a blank canvas upon which every new age paints its own questions, its own fears, and its own dreams. In Egypt, they were seen as the granaries of the biblical Joseph or the tombs of ancient sage kings, their true funerary purpose debated for over 1,000 years before modern archaeology provided answers. Their endurance through this long night of forgetting is what cemented their iconic status. While the palaces of the pharaohs crumbled to dust and the great cities of the Nile shifted course, the geometric mountains remained, stubbornly defying the desert wind. Their very survival became their message. They taught a visceral lesson about permanence, whispering to every passing culture that here was something that could not be erased. Across the ocean, a different kind of afterlife unfolded. The great Maya cities like Tikal and Palenque did not slowly fade from memory, they were swallowed. The jungle, patient and relentless, moved in. Vines cracked the limestone, roots cradled the carved facades, and towering ceiba trees grew straight from the temple summits. For centuries, these places existed only in local legend, places of power where the old gods might still dwell, known but not understood. Then came the rediscovery, a collision of worlds that reshaped modern identities. When explorers like John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood pushed through the dense foliage in the 19th century, they were not just finding ruins, they were uncovering a lost chapter of human history. Their published accounts, filled with breathtaking illustrations of vine-draped temples, sent a shockwave through the Western world. Here was a sophisticated civilization, with its own writing, astronomy, and art, that had flourished entirely independently of Europe or the ancient Near East. This revelation was transformative, especially for the nations that emerged in these lands. The pyramids of Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza ceased to be mere curiosities. They became foundational pillars of national heritage. They were proof of a deep, glorious past that predated colonial history, sources of immense pride and cultural unity. The pyramid, reclaimed from the jungle, became a symbol of resilience and ancient genius for modern Mexico and Guatemala. This cycle of abandonment and rediscovery is central to the pattern's enduring grip on us. The fact that these structures survive as ruins, not as intact, functioning buildings, is key. A perfect, gleaming pyramid in a bustling city would be a testament to its builders, but a broken, silent one in an empty landscape is a testament to time itself. It is the essential shape that remains after all the ornamentation has fallen away, the geometric core enduring long after the painted stucco and the wooden temple roofs have vanished. This durability invites projection. We see them not as they were, but as we are. The 18th century European saw them as monuments to a lost, noble race. The 19th century occultist saw them as repositories of Atlantean wisdom. The 20th century astronaut theorist saw them as alien landing beacons. Each generation, confronted by their silent, imposing form, fills the void with its own mysteries. The pyramid's very resistance to total decay makes it the perfect screen for our imaginations. It stands at the intersection of the known and the unknown, a solid, factual presence whose origins feel tantalizingly out of reach. This is why the pattern fascinates us beyond any single building. It is not just that ancient cultures built similar shapes, it is that those shapes have the unique power to survive into our modern world as questions carved in stone. They force us to wonder, and in that wondering we keep their legacy alive, not as they intended it but as we need it to be. Their afterlife is in many ways our ongoing conversation with the past. The truth of the pyramid lies not in one grand theory, but in a perfect storm of necessity. It was never a single idea that spread. but a powerful answer that different minds discovered when asking the same profound questions. This convergence is not a puzzle of lost contact, but a breathtaking display of parallel human genius. Separate civilizations, each climbing the ladder of complexity, found themselves facing a remarkably similar set of challenges. They needed to build something permanent with the heavy, compressive materials they had, stone and earth. The pyramid was the most stable answer, a fortress against gravity. They yearned to connect their fleeting world to the eternal cycles of the cosmos. The pyramid, with its flat summit and precise faces, became the ultimate observatory and calendar, a stone interface with the sun and stars. They required a symbol of unity so potent it could command the labor of thousands and cement the authority of a ruler or a god. The pyramid's sheer, dominating scale was that unshakable statement of power, visible for miles. And deep within their shared consciousness, the archetype of the sacred mountain, the world axis where heaven meets earth, demanded physical form. The pyramid gave that ancient dream a geometry. None of these factors alone is sufficient. A stable mound does not automatically become a temple. A political symbol does not require celestial alignment. An observatory does not need to be a tomb. It is the fusion of all these needs that makes the pyramid so uniquely compelling and so universally resonant. When a society possessed the resources, the organization, and the spiritual vision to attempt a project of such magnitude, the pyramid presented itself as the singular shape that could satisfy every requirement at once. It was engineering, astronomy, politics, and psychology, all crystallized into a single, sublime form. This multifaceted solution explains why the pattern emerges with such clarity across the globe. Different cultures emphasized different aspects, the Egyptians perfecting the geometric tomb, the Maya the theatrical calendar, the Sumerians the communal temple staircase. But at their core, each was answering the same complex equation of human aspiration. They were not copying a blueprint, they were independently solving for X, and the solution, shaped by universal laws of physics and shared depths of the human spirit, was the same. The real wonder is not that they built similar shapes, but that they arrived at such a profoundly integrated answer, a monument that spoke to the body, the mind, the community, and the cosmos all at once. This is the legacy of the pyramid, a testament to what happens when human ingenuity, faced with the ultimate questions, finds the same elegant, enduring answer written in the language of stone. This perspective is a powerful shift in how we view our shared history. Instead of searching for a lost teacher, we celebrate a chorus of independent voices, each singing the same profound song in a different language. The magnificent Pyramid of Giza, the serpent-shadowed temple of Chichen Itza, and the cosmic mandala of Borobudur were not products of a single instruction manual. They were three separate epiphanies, three distinct civilizations looking at their world and arriving at a staggeringly similar conclusion about how to reach for the infinite. This is not a story of copying, but of parallel discovery. It means the Egyptian architect wrestling with the logistics of limestone, the Maya astronomer calculating the angle of a descending shadow, and the Khmer king envisioning Mount Meru in stone were all engaged in the same monumental act of creation, yet guided by entirely unique gods, myths, and environmental challenges. Honoring this independence does more than solve a historical puzzle. It restores dignity and agency to these ancient peoples. It credits the full depth of their own intellectual and spiritual journeys. To suggest they needed an outside blueprint is to subtly diminish their accomplishment. To imply their own genius was insufficient. The independent innovation theory argues the opposite. Their genius was so profound, so universally human, that it sparked the same brilliant idea across impassable divides. This reframing turns our question inward. The mystery is no longer a geographic one, about routes of contact across oceans. it becomes a psychological and philosophical exploration. What is it about the human condition, about our place under the vast sky, that makes this ascending, geometric form feel so inherently right? Why does the idea of a sacred mountain resonate so deeply, whether you are a priest on the floodplain of the Euphrates or a ruler in the highlands of Peru? The answer seems to lie in a combination of shared constraints and shared dreams. We all live under the same sun, bound by the same gravity, and we all wrestle with the same existential questions about life, death, and our place in the cosmos. When a society reaches a point where it can attempt to answer those questions in stone, the pyramid emerges as a kind of universal solution set. It satisfies the engineer's need for stability, the astronomer's need for alignment, the ruler's need for a symbol of unchanging power, and the priest's need for a bridge to the divine. That different cultures in isolation could each assemble this same multifaceted answer is not evidence of a single source, but of a shared human capacity for integrated, monumental thought. This view is ultimately a celebration of diversity within unity. It allows us to marvel equally at the specific beauty of a Maya stela and the serene perfection of an Egyptian sarcophagus, while understanding that both are expressions of the same underlying human impulse to create meaning that reaches for the sky. The pattern is not a sign of a lost global civilization, but a fingerprint of the global human mind. So this recurring shape is more than an architectural coincidence. It is a fossilized human thought. Encoded in these stone mountains is a profound truth about who we are. When disparate civilizations with no shared language or history all reach for the same form to express their highest ideals, they are revealing something fundamental about our shared nature. The pyramid is not just a building, it is a recurring idea in the story of humanity, a testament to universal aspirations that transcend the chasms of time and space. What does this persistent pattern tell us about being human? It suggests that certain symbolic forms and problem-solving approaches are deeply ingrained within us, perhaps even hardwired. When faced with the monumental questions of existence, questions of the divine, of political power, and of legacy, the human mind across continents seems to gravitate toward similar solutions. The pyramid emerges not as a copied style, but as a natural expression, a kind of architectural instinct. It points to a universal desire to reach upward, both literally and spiritually. To build a pyramid is to enact a deep-seated yearning to bridge the earthly realm with the sky, to touch the domain of the gods or the orderly motion of the stars. It is an attempt to create a permanent anchor in a transient world, a legacy of stone meant to whisper our name to the future long after we are gone. This drive is not about vanity, but about meaning. It is the human spirit refusing to accept its own impermanence without leaving a mark. The farmer who plants a tree he will never sit under understands this impulse on a small scale. The civilization that marshals generations to build a pyramid understands it on a monumental one. Both are acts of faith in a future beyond the self. The pattern also reveals our innate talent for integrated thinking. The pyramid is not a single-answer solution. It is a multifaceted masterpiece that solves for stability, astronomy, social cohesion, and spiritual longing all at once. That cultures in isolation could arrive at such a brilliantly integrated concept speaks to a shared cognitive capacity, a way of thinking that seeks to weave together the practical and the profound. We are, it seems, natural synthesizers, looking at a pile of stone and seeing not just a quarry, but a calendar, a temple, and a ladder to heaven. This architectural convergence is ultimately a message of connection. It reminds us that beneath the surface differences of culture, language, and belief, the human family shares a common set of dreams and dilemmas. An Egyptian priest gazing at the dawn from the summit of Saqqara, and a Maya astronomer watching the equinox shadow slither down El Castillo were, in a very real sense, engaged in the same quest. They were using the best tools of their time and place to answer the same eternal questions. Where do we come from? What is our purpose? And how do we leave an echo of our existence in the silent universe? The pyramids are their answers, carved in a language of geometry and light that we are still learning to fully decipher. They stand not as ruins of dead empires, but as enduring monuments to the living, restless, upward-reaching spirit that defines us all. The silent stones are finally beginning to whisper their secrets, not to archaeologists with shovels, but to physicists with particle detectors. The future of this ancient mystery is being written by a new generation of tools, technologies that allow us to see through earth and stone as if they were glass. We are no longer limited to what we can dig up. We can now peer inside without ever breaking the surface. This shift from speculative history to hard data is transforming our understanding, offering a chance to appreciate the precise, unique methods of each culture with unprecedented clarity. Leading this quiet revolution is a technology called Lidar, or light detection and ranging. Imagine flying over an impenetrable jungle canopy and firing millions of laser pulses toward the ground. These pulses penetrate the smallest gaps in the leaves, bounce off the terrain below, and return to a sensor. By measuring their travel time, a computer can strip away the vegetation entirely, revealing a three-dimensional map of the ground beneath. From the jungles of Guatemala to the Amazon basin, Lidar is doing exactly that, uncovering entire lost cities and hidden pyramids that have been swallowed by the forest for 1,000 years. With each new scan, we are finding more examples of this architectural pattern in places we never thought to look, expanding the map of this global phenomenon and providing fresh data points to test the model of independent development. Every newly discovered structure adds another piece to the puzzle, helping us see the variations in design and purpose that distinguish one culture's sacred mountain from another's. While Lidar strips away the jungle, another extraordinary technology is allowing us to see through solid rock. It is called Muon tomography, and it relies on cosmic rays, subatomic particles that constantly rain down from deep space. These muons pass effortlessly through empty space but are absorbed or deflected by dense materials like stone. By placing sensitive muon detectors inside or around a pyramid, scientists can create a density map of the entire structure, much like a medical CT scan reveals the inside of a human body. Teams are using this right now in Egypt, scanning the Great Pyramid to search for hidden chambers or voids that have eluded discovery for 45 centuries. This non-invasive method promises to reveal the internal architecture without a single stone being moved, potentially uncovering construction details, blocked passages, or even unknown rooms. The goal is not treasure but understanding, mapping the decision-making process of the ancient builders from the inside out. Each void or structural feature tells a story about the engineering challenges they faced and the solutions they devised in real time, offering a glimpse into the moment-by-moment genius of the project. On a microscopic scale, advanced materials analysis is providing a different kind of testimony. Using techniques like spectrometry, researchers can take a tiny sample of stone or mortar and determine its exact chemical fingerprint. This allows them to trace a limestone block from the Great Pyramid back to its specific quarry along the Nile, revealing intricate supply chains and logistics networks. They can analyze the composition of the mortar used in Maya temples to understand the recipes and binding materials perfected over generations. By studying tool marks, weathering patterns, and construction sequences, we can begin to read these monuments not as finished products, but as processes frozen in time. We can see where work paused, where plans changed, and how techniques evolved from one layer to the next. This forensic approach turns each pyramid into a detailed logbook of its own creation, written in the language of mineralogy and physics. Together, these tools are moving us beyond the broad silhouette of the pattern and into the fine-grained details of its execution. The overarching shape may be shared, but the data now shows us that the paths to achieving it were wonderfully diverse. The future of this mystery lies in celebrating that diversity. As we gather more precise information, we move further from vague theories of lost teachers and closer to a profound appreciation for the specific, localized genius at work. We will be able to compare not just pyramids, but the distinct choices of the people who built them, the quarry they selected, the astronomical observation they prized most, the social organization they used to mobilize labor. This data-driven journey does not diminish the wonder of the pattern, it deepens it. It proves that the shared human impulse to build a sacred mountain could flower into such brilliantly different forms of expression, each a perfect adaptation to its own environment, cosmology, and society. The final chapter of this ancient story is being written now, not with speculation, but with the silent, undeniable language of evidence. The stones have spoken their final, silent truth. We have walked the ramps of Ziggurats and climbed the stairways of jungle temples, tracing the same profound shape across the empty spaces of the map and the deep chasms of time. This journey reveals no secret teacher, no single source from which all wisdom flowed. Instead, it uncovers something far more meaningful about ourselves. The recurring pyramid is not an artifact of contact, but a fossil of a shared human thought. It is the shape that emerges when a civilization, anywhere on Earth, gains the ability to ask the monumental questions and possesses the will to answer them in a language meant to last forever. That language blended sheer physical necessity with celestial wonder, marrying the engineer's slide rule with the priest's vision. The stable slope defeated gravity, the aligned face tracked the sun, the towering form manifested power, and the ascending path ritualized the human yearning to touch the divine. Each culture wove these threads into a tapestry unique to its gods and its landscape, yet the underlying pattern, the geometric urge to build a sacred mountain, remained constant. This is the heart of the mystery and its resolution. We are not looking at a copied blueprint, but at the independent discovery of a universal solution set. The pyramid was the answer that awaited any society that reached a certain threshold of cohesion and curiosity, a ready shape in the collective imagination, waiting to be rendered in limestone, mud brick, or volcanic tuff. The true marvel, then, is not that they built the same thing, but that they all found it. Separated by impassable oceans and unrecorded centuries, the Sumerian priest, the Egyptian pharaoh, and the Maya astronomer each looked at their world and decided to build a mountain. They chose the same form to encode their distinct cosmologies, proving that the architecture of aspiration follows a deep, common grammar. This story pulls us away from fantasies of lost continents and turns our gaze inward to the incredible creative potential of the human mind. It asks us to see these monuments not as relics of a forgotten instruction manual, but as triumphs of parallel genius. They stand as eternal reminders that when faced with the great unknowns of life, death, and the cosmos, humanity possesses a stunning capacity to arrive at similar, sublime answers. The legacy they left is not one of mystery but of connection, a whisper across the ages that our deepest dreams, when given form, often choose the same geometry. If this exploration of our shared architectural heritage has sparked your curiosity, there are countless more historical puzzles waiting to be unraveled. Consider subscribing for journeys into other enigmas of the ancient world, and we would love to hear from you. Which of these pyramid-building civilizations captures your imagination the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below.